Ladies and gentlemen, we will move on to our next panel discussion, and this discussion is going to be interesting, I promise you. It's on driving outcomes in the global knowledge economy. And while we do the setup, I'm going to introduce the chairperson and our moderator and our panelists to all of you. Our first panelist for this session will be Mr. Abhijit Guha. Mr. Abhijit Guha is the founder and global president of the Data Consultants Corporation, or DCC, and has an experience of over 42 years. In 2016, Mr. Abhijit and Debashish Ghosh collaborated and DCC was formed in India. Today, DCC USA, DCC India are working together under the banner of DCC for global clients. Our next panelist for this session is Professor Dr. Dhrubajyoti Chattopadhyay. Professor Dr. Dhrubajyoti Chattopadhyay is currently the Honorable Vice Chancellor of Sister Nivedita University, Kolkata from January 2020 onwards, and was the founder, Vice Chancellor of Amity University, Kolkata from 2015 to 2019. Our next panelist for this session is Mr. Shomik Dasgupta. Mr. Shomik is an experienced digital transformation and SAP leader with over 22 years of rich and extensive experience leading technology and digital practices in sales, strategy, delivery, business development, and innovation. Mr. Shomik is a partner at PwC India, based out of Mumbai. And our chairperson and moderator for this session will be Mr. Aparup Sengupta, founder and chairman, Aj Global Foundation. Mr. Aparup is an entrepreneur at heart, having built 4 successful startups. He now mentors young professionals and actively supports philanthropy. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our chairperson and our moderator and our panelists for this discussion that we're going to have, driving outcomes in the global knowledge economy. May I request the chairperson and moderator, Mr. Aparup Sengupta, to kindly come on stage, and also our panelist, Mr. Abhijit Guha, Professor Dr. Dhrubajyoti Chattopadhyay, and Mr. Shomik Dasgupta. May I request all of you to kindly come onto the stage. Put your hands together for this extremely vibrant panel discussion that we are now going to have. And I will now hand over the entire session to Mr. Aparup Sengupta, our chairperson and our moderator. Sir.
Thank you very much. Check. Thank you very much. I remember there was a very interesting story I heard when I was a young boy, that there was a singer who was singing and he was very impressed because there were only a few audience members who were sitting there. And I'm getting that feeling. And then finally, when he finished his singing, he asked those guys that you are really a great classical connoisseur. You loved my singing. He says, no, I'm the decorator, sir. I'm just waiting when you will finish so that I can take it off. So I'm getting that kind of a feeling. So I'm just getting that kind of a feeling. But just, I think it was just a joke to lighten this whole atmosphere. It's a privilege and honor for me to be a moderator of this session. I will not say chairperson, because we are just coming off a wonderful heated dialogue that we were having in the speakers lounge, and I think it will be a best idea for us to continue with that model and keep it pretty much informal so that you have the ability to ask questions, we'll debate, and we will have conversations. So the topic, as I say, is driving outcome in a knowledge economy. Very heavy topic for a short half an hour, 40-minute discussion. But I think I will start by asking a provocative question. Is at the backdrop of India becoming the 5th largest economy of the world, and therefore there is a kind of a sense and also a sensibility that everybody is thinking that India is going to be a nation finally, from the ING nation to the ED nation, which is a developing nation to a developed nation. So that's the whole idea. So my first question goes to Mr. Abhijit Guha. How do you think India can become one of the top 3 economies of the world? If that's the outcome, if the country wants.
You already know my answer. Right?
Yeah, but I think yes. Okay, go ahead.
So we were talking to him in the speaker's lounge. And I said, what did I say? I said, we should be the number 1. Not China, not United States. It's a shame that my associate put the PowerPoint together, although I am from India, born only 30 miles from here, but now my country is America. So, India should be number 1 because we are holding something great, knowledge. We don't have that in America, we don't have that in China, we don't have that in Russia, but we don't know how to sell it. We don't really know how we are always thinking that we will engage 200,000 people, 300,000 people. That's not the way to become number 1. And that's the discussion we are having in the speaker's lounge. I said, let's do something different. By the time 2030, 2040, 2050 comes along, we should be able to sell our intellectual property. What are we good at? Indians are good at science, math, and engineering. Everybody I remember back in 1970s and 80s were going to engineering school. Not medical school, not business school, engineering school. And why? Because we knew that that's the way to go forward. Today, we are trying to send those same people to United States, my home country. And I'm guilty as well. I bring people from here to work for us. But India has a great potential to beat my current home country, US, to become number 1. How? Build the software technology here, which rest of the world has to buy. Just like Chinese go to buy the German machines to make the manufacturing easier. We must do that because that's our key. Manufacturing, sad to say, India is not good at manufacturing. India is not good at what America does. Package everything from rest of the world and sell it to the rest of the world. India can do that very well. I am 100% sure if we do that, we will succeed, and before my time goes, we will become number 1. We are at 6.5 trillion. Who can tell me how much time it took us to become number 5? Less than 10 years. Less than 10 years. So 15 years. So in 15 years, if we could go from what position to what position to become, I'm not very good at those statistics. Huh? Right. Okay. So at this rate, we are growing, America is growing at 1-2% right now, right? If we can bring this up to 7-8%, which doesn't seem very unlikely, doesn't seem that it's that difficult to do, we should be able to catch up with both America and the United States. My friends of the United States who are going to see this video, they're going to hate me. But at the end of the day, I was born here. So I love helping this country. I formed this company, DCC Services. I'm representing here because long back my dad told me you have to have something here. So
thank you very much,
Thank you.
Mr. Guha. I would love to call you Abhijit, but just calling you Mr. Guha because of the formality of the session. You started a very thought-provoking kind of an answer that we want to become number 1 in this country. And going back to the roots of our age-old wisdom, karmanne vadikarestu ma phalesu kadachana. So which means at the heart of outcome, which is the result, there was a lot of emphasis that was given by our rishis about the work that you do, the passion, the love, the intensity with which you do that work. So as a consultant, Shomik, I wanted to ask you this question, Shomik, is that as a consultant, as an advisor, when you're advising large organizations who are looking for outcome from you, there is a cause and effect. So what are the elements of cause that you believe lead to better outcomes?
Before answering that, I would look back and see, talk about the topic and say that, in the earlier days when we had the agrarian economy, land was of a great significance and use. Then we moved to the industrial, revolution and industrial economy, where machinery, plant, and equipment, they became the bedrock of growth. Now, we are in a very, very strange juncture where knowledge-based economy is becoming the driving force, and that means, what actually, Abhijit or Mr. Guha was talking about is bang on, that patents, software, information, people, upskilling of people, these all things put together is becoming the knowledge-based economy. And tomorrow, just by pumping people into a particular country, or just by even manufacturing stuff, it's not going to be enough. Because today, if you know, I hold an Apple phone, and what it says is that designed in USA, made in China. But if you see the revenue of Apple, the amount of revenue that Apple is taking for the design, for the patent, is probably more than 100 or 1,000 times what it takes to make this particular product. And that is the power of knowledge, which is actually ushering, what exactly Mr. Guha was saying. And I just thought I'll contextualize that to my understanding and with a practical example to say that that is where the economy is going, that is where the money is, the idea, the entire thought of doing something different, being bold enough to do something different, to be innovative, to be creative is what is driving it. Now coming to your direct question, as a consultant, most of the time customers come to us for either opportunities or problems. Now, opportunities could be, a copycat opportunity where somebody else is doing something and, you don't want to miss the bus and you have the fear of missing out and you come to a consultant to say that strengthen my business to be able to compete in the market. There could also be a problem where, again, maybe there's sagging revenues or there is, could be outdated technology or multiple things for which a company comes to us. But again, the core is that very few companies come to us to say that I want to do something different and I am bold to do something different, help me do that. So this igniting this passion of innovation is extremely important in India, and that is what we as PwC are trying to do going forward as we enter into this next digital era, to see as to how we can help companies think differently and do differently and make the conventional obsolete and leapfrog towards a new, more innovative world. And I don't want to beat India a lot black and blue, because India has been doing quite decent and quite well, and we have been consulting a lot with fintech companies, with payment banks and stuff like that, where India has actually moved way ahead than the world in those areas, and there's an assurance of innovation which has come in, and it's a domino effect. Once you start into that cycle, you keep moving on and it keeps building from that. I'll take a pause here.
Absolutely. So I think, thank you very much. My son's friend came from Berlin, and he was mentioning that it takes 3 days to transfer money from one account to another account in Germany. And today with Google Pay or Paytm or whatever, it's in seconds. So that's something that he feels very proud that this is what the country that I belong to, and it has really leapfrogged. So at times when you start late, you basically cross the chasm and skip some of the steps and get into a leapfrogging kind of an environment. And I think India is poised for that. So in that context, one of the key elements of this whole journey or revolution has to be done with people. So as a Vice Chancellor of a university, Professor Chattopadhyay, how do you think our youngsters are thinking? Are they in that age-old kind of a framework of chakri or job and then qualification and a stamp and a degree? Or are they taking bold steps to maybe leave college and start something on their own? I mean, where do you see the young minds, the future of India, as the governor said, that they are the custodians of today and the leaders and the craftsmen of tomorrow? How do you see those students as a professor?
Thank you for bringing this particular important question to me, because I think one of the very important thing that today when we are sitting over here, we just came to know a couple of hours back in G20 we got the presidency. So that's a very important information, because that's what the Prime Minister is trying for a long period of time. And you know that the one where we are talking about this global knowledge economy, this particular terminology itself says that, as very rightly mentioned by Mr. Guha, that it is actually based on the concept of STEM. In general, in academics, we call it STEM, where the science, technology, engineering and management, which gets quite a bit of importance in our Indian academics. But the way we used to look at it is from a point of view where it is more bookish than really practicing. So when we're talking about that realization itself, that here we have to understand how we could make this, our young generation, the employability of them, and make this combination of the academia and industry a reality. We are talking about this for a long period of time, but you know that in the industry 4.0 and academy 4.0, when they join hand together, and particularly the introduction of the NEP 2020, where this particular importance has been given, there I am quite sure that what is actually mentioned by my co-partner, Mr. Dasgupta, that igniting this particular young minds is going to occur actually now in a much more higher speed, and we can really see number of innovations. What we have seen during this corona period, COVID period, that in a very short period of time, how much we can come out of the large number of our dependence on the Chinese. We have done a lot of things by ourselves, though it is at the very lower stage, but that's an indication. Yes, the knowledge economy is becoming a driving force for India also.
I think excellent point you made, that how do you ignite these young minds. In that context, I would like to provocate this whole panel, which, as I am spending more time with youngsters, clearly in our generation, and also probably it is continuing, there is no freedom to fail. I mean, as parents, we do not allow our children to fail, they are reprimanded. In fact, I run a school and their target is no puer upore number pite. Okay, that's the target that parents are setting up, not setting up as to what they will become in life as human beings. So freedom to fail and freedom from ridicule, these two freedom is still not there with us, and I'm giving this provocative question. We have professors, we have entrepreneurs. Where do you think, what should India do? And I'm bringing the American concept that if a Mark Zuckerberg leaves Harvard or a Bill Gates leaves Harvard, does not complete it and starts a company, he gets supported. How do you think India can have that kind of evolution of that mindset, especially in a society where we are still a parental society? I mean, the children live in their parents' home and there's a huge amount of influence that they have from the parents. How can that come into this country that you have seen in the US? So this is for a question for you.
So I have a youngster at home. I look old for most of you, but I had 3 youngsters home, 3 boys. Each one of them told me that the oldest son told me yesterday he wants to join the army. Why? Because he loves going and doing fast cars, building fast cars. When he started writing college essays, just like what you said, I wanted him to go to Harvard, MIT, all the good schools. He came and told me, Dad, that's your dream, not mine. I want to do what I feel passionate about. And he chose a school 40 miles from my home in Chicago, and he loves it. He loves doing what he is doing. And I just pay the tuition and say, whatever you want to do, if he wants to go, that's what Indian parents are not allowing their kids to do. Most of it. Now, some of you might disagree with me. I am an Indian father, right? My wife is an American lady. She says, no, you're wrong. Let him do what he wants to do. And my two other kids are also the same way. That's what we have to do. We have more, from what I have seen in the news, India has more teenage and kid suicide because of doing bad in school than anywhere else in the world. I don't know if that stats is true or not, but in America you are not going to find that because kids do what they want to do. And that's why they are successful. They fail, they get up, they fail, they get up, and then they do it again. And I was when I went to school here in Narendrapur, I had option to try many different colleges. I only gave one exam, JEE. And my father asked me, if you don't get it, I said, I'll get it. And I got it. And I was confident. You need to instill that confidence in the kid's mind. You need to instill that confidence in the kid's mind that they might fail, but when they get up, they will succeed. If they fail 10 times, 11th time they will succeed. I learned that hard way in sales, and Debashish, my colleague there, he told me the same thing. He said, never give up, and if we instill that in our kids, you will have a lot more successful kids than the kids who do not want to take a chance. So that's my good answer for you, I hope.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but I wish parents in India thought like that, to give people an opportunity. Now, going back to that question of outcome, and outcome is an end state, and that there's an intermediate process of how you reach that outcome and steps. In that steps, one of the key element which I picked up by studying a lot of psychology, especially done by Martin Seligman at the University of Pennsylvania, along with Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. They talk of this research of young students who have been in the university and have been working. They found that there is an element of purpose and meaning that drives an individual towards a certain goal. It could be liberal arts, it can be somebody trying to be a guitarist, it can be somebody trying to be a singer, it can be somebody trying to be a poet, it can be somebody trying to be a STEM guy, which is science, engineering, mathematics. So if that is the kind of an ecosystem that needs to be built, and therefore passion has to be the key ingredient of creating an outcome, as a consulting organization, when you are advising corporations as to how to transform the workforce to think in those directions, how do you go about bringing that change? Because that's the big thing that I see is an impediment of mindset, that I will go the beaten path because that is what I have seen as a success over the last 10 years, and they are basically extrapolating that success as their future and not taking those bold, risk-taking steps. So how do you go ahead and nudge companies to allow these individuals to do things which are not in the book and go out of the book and do things?
So before that, Aparup, again, if you allow me, I'll just backtrack to the question that you asked Abhijit and then go to this answer.
Sure.
Because it's so interesting that let me try to answer, and I was also thinking as a parent as to, would I allow my child to fail, and how would, and I have two little children and whom I love a lot. Now, that reminded me that when Edison invented the light bulb, he was asked as to, what was the most important thing that you learned from it. And there's a saying that he says that, he failed 99 times and in the 100th time he succeeded. So he said that now I know how not to make a light bulb for 99 times, and I know the right formula to make. So he said that the failure was more important, that gave him the learning, and that was a path to the success. Now when I put it to the real world, it's easier said than done. And as you just said, we need the schools with 90% mark, and it's a mindset change that is required for us to be able to accept that failure and the stigma associated with that failure, or probably the perceived stigma associated with that failure and stuff like that. Now, the moment, you look at us as consultants, we have very little room to fail when we are on the job, because we are taken in as consultants to succeed, not to fail. If a company had to fail, then they could do it on their own and fail. So that puts a very thin line for us to figure out as to how we create our own labs, how we create our own internal mechanisms for people to ignite that particular passion and try things out in a different way. At the same time, not lose track from the path of success. We encourage young people. We are one company who hires a lot from the campus. We are a strong believer of campus hire and the young talent that comes in, which would usher a lot of knowledge. So, if we ask the youngsters who come in to perform the prescribed way, they get very bored nowadays. And, so there is one line which we follow, which is yes, okay, go ahead and follow the prescribed way. The other line is an extension of college where we say, okay, this is your R&D lab, try and experiment and do something different. So that type of ecosystem helps us not only keep the passion alive for the youngsters, but also try to achieve some of the outcomes which could be possible. Now, this is again, a cyclic process. US has been doing it, as Abhijit said, for a very long time. But in India, look at the number of unicorns and startups which have been coming of late. And we have been doing a decent job of creating a lot of such companies here in India. And again, we are probably leapfrogging some of those, areas and moving ahead. Like we were talking to the head of SoftBank, and he said that who would have thought that, in India, not an established, conglomerate, but Ola would come with the largest EV factory, scooter factory in India, right? So today we can dream that a startup can also come and open up such a large, such a large setup for a cutting edge thing. I mean, established motorcycle and, two-wheeler companies are there. Age old, generations old. I mean, at least 2 or 3 generation old companies are there. But this company out of the blue suddenly said that we'll set up one of the largest, electric scooter company in the world. And they actually did it. So it is, I guess, this passion has to be ignited and the belief has to be there that we can do it. And I think that is what we are seeing in the next generation, and the access of knowledge across mediums is helping people to not only generate ideas, but also to tap funding, also to tap investors, also to tap people across the globe who believe in their ideas and to make things happen. I think that's the best thing that is happening in India.
Okay, that's a very interesting point. Yes, go ahead.
So, forget the mic. So, I think there is some mindset change is necessary for sure. All the colleagues of mine who are sitting here, they know that my mindset is very different than when I started here. The mindset change is extremely important because right now all the students are still trying to come out from the university and want a job, right? They are not thinking about starting a business. And if you don't have the entrepreneurial mindset, it's very difficult to say, I will succeed one day to a point where I can afford to buy a Porsche or whatever it is and be very successful. They see that only happening in America. They don't see that here as much. If they start seeing that, people are going to do it. Government definitely, people who are here from the government definitely needs to inject money in those areas, because it's not always possible for private companies to support that kind of an effort, right? VCs are there right now, VCs are supporting, but startups, the number of startups in India have grown, as he was saying, but the startups are still nowhere near what it is in US, what it is in China, and we need to get there. India needs
I
to
will
get
just differ with you on this.
Okay.
US did not do any capital investment for creating entrepreneurs. It was private capital. So the issue today we are seeing in India is that there is a lack of risk capital. I mean, we do not allow, that means I as a person will not try to forget $1 million and give it away to a bunch of 7 or 10 kids thinking that, oh my God, I'm going to lose my money. So this fear of loss, that whole idea of possessiveness, that savings is still there, risk capital is still not a mindset. Even today as a sovereign, if you look at Temasek or others which are Singapore, private equity funds, there is a government allocation of billions of dollars that can be potentially lost. So they are going ahead and taking those steps, but I have not heard of a sovereign fund in the US that is promoting startups. But it all starts in the universities. If you look at all great startups, I mean, they start in the university. So how will you go as a vice chancellor of the university, how will you go ahead tomorrow and say, you know what, I came out from this seminar, here is, I am launching a program that the best startup who will basically create a business while studying will get this prize, and let's say this is a 50,000 rupees prize that will be given, and we as sponsors will probably, let's say, go ahead and support it. How would you go about bringing that change of people trying something beyond the curriculum and whatever they study?
Yeah, thank you for asking me this question, but I start with the one where you started, the peer pressure, as well as you mentioned about the freedom to fail. That particular thing is not there, and that itself making the students in such a way that academics is something different from what they are going to expect from their employability and other things. Now, coming back to where we stand, I just wanted to share with my friends present over here, things are changing. You know that this very much dependent on the curricula. The curricula we are going to actually give this opportunity to our students, that's going to change quite a bit. And that's what we have seen in our university, our experience is that, because we actually giving this choice-based credit system in such a way, you will be happy to know, all of you, that even the engineering students, they used to take the elective as dance. That is, they have that passion in their mind, but because of the peer pressure, they have gone to engineering. But in our university, we have given them the opportunity. You can have music, you can have dance, you can have political science, and you can see that absolute changes in their mindset. They love to do the paintings. They can go to the art school. So this is actually what I could find, that if we can make our curriculum in such a way, we can make them dynamic in nature. So this is the first step to change their mindset. You should not have any taboo in your mind that, oh, I'm engineer means I don't have to have X, Y, Z. And I think Mr. Guha rightly mentioned that it's a duty of us, the teachers, actually to change this whole mindset in a much better way. The second point, what I just wanted to share with you, what I could see that in general, whenever we have our orientation program and others, we always say that, yes, you will try for your getting the employment, but think about generating employment. From the first orientation day, we try to actually get them this particular passion in their mind. You have to think about, why don't you going to be a job giver instead of a job seeker? And that started actually quite a bit of change in the mindset of them. So there are the ways where we, the teachers, we have very important role to play in changing this thing. And at the very beginning there, we could get some sort of resistance from the parents, but you know that we have our parents-students meeting where we try to actually explain them. So this is actually not only our university, there are several universities right now in India is trying to do this thing, and that is only possible by changing the mindset regarding the rigidity of the curricula. You have to pass, you have to fail. Right now it's a grading system. Right now it's not even the pointers we are giving. The students are going to get this grade or that grade. It's not that 90%, 100%, that thing is gone. And normally what we said that this particular distribution of marks is actually, if in a particular class, most of the students gets highest, they are going to the B grader, because that's how the secondary response curve actually goes. So these are the different things which we have to introduce, and that's being introduced by a large number of universities, and that's a positive sign.
Oh, that's excellent. I mean, so great to hear those green shoots being seen. So now we have about 8 minutes left. I would throw open this August gathering for questions from the audience. So if you can, somebody from your side can just float a mic around, it'll be great, because it's always great to ask the audience some questions. Yes. Can we get a mic for him? Yes, it's right there.
The thing is, just now you said that your friend was in Germany, your son's friend was in Germany, and he took 3 days to transfer money. And in India, it is doing fast. I had been to Germany a couple of years back, say around 10 years back. I didn't face this. So, do you think that this e-wallets and all these things are not prevailing there in Germany? No, I'm serious. I'm asking you.
There's nothing like NEFT, RTGS, bank to bank. It's not there yet.
This is for my knowledge. Okay, fine.
Yes.
And what you said about this 90%.
Just on that point, they had Wirecard, which was a big fraud.
Okay.
Germany, they tried doing something like this, but it ended up being a very, very big fraud.
Okay, Acha, this is my knowledge. Secondly, what this...
So you should feel proud about as an Indian.
Definitely.
That today we can send
we are
money
at par
using
with them.
With a mobile number you can send money.
So for GDP is concerned, we are at par with them. Our GDP, German GDP and French are almost at par.
That's a wrong measure anyway. Just go ahead. What's your question?
This is what?
Yeah.
This is I asked.
Okay.
Secondly, about this 90%, the reason being, we are into an economy, we get fear. If I don't get 90%, we will not be able to make my fortune or my career. Otherwise, what other developed nations like USA and Germany, wherever it is, because they have 3-4 generation of wealth. So they can survive without getting 90%. That is the reason. We will achieve the same thing after 60-40 years from hence. This is the reason. Okay. And nothing else.
Any other question? It's a good observation. Okay, so, okay, sure. This lady here in front.
Yes, hi, good evening. I have one question to Dhrubajyoti sir. Back my MBA days, I've attended so much of your lectures earlier. So it's my pleasure to ask you this question. Right now, if we go for the global index for global knowledge economy, if you see the index right now, so India is from 40, 40 below, and US is at the top. Obviously, we have our reasons. But as a teacher, as a mentor, what would be, your suggestion that people who have, just completed their study or who are working earlier, just started their work, how, we are going to change this dynamic? Because in US, the social economic structure that gives empowerment to this concept, global knowledge economy. They go ahead and they set up labs or they encourage that. But in India, we are growing, but how to accelerate that particular section so that from 41, at least we can get, top 10 at least.
join you in the answer? So she is my colleague. I can tell you that one of the things which really happens is that in US, it's the parents, it's not the teachers, it's not the student themselves, it's the parents which drive that motivation. The previous story I told you about, and here the parents, including my own parents, we all want our kids to have the best education so that they can get a great job. Until we give freedom to our kids to do what they are good at or what they want to be good at, no university can help them. No university can help them. The gentleman in the front row who said that it's the 3-4 generations of wealth. I know people in my company who came from third world countries and scaled up one by one and did well. There are people, and in my company, there is the MD of my company in India, Devashish. Same thing, we all came from middle class families and went up. That passion has to be burning inside you, and passion cannot be instilled by teachers. It has to come from inside, it has to come from parents, it has to, and some of you have seen this, and I think the professor will tell you the same thing. He sees 1,000 students, he knows 100 students have those passions. The rest 900 wants to just pass. Isn't that true?
Absolutely, you're true. But what I want to say that, to answer your question, that the India and United States, we cannot actually make them similar actually. Though we are talking about the global knowledge economy, but the two things, say for example, Peter Drucker in 1966 used this particular term, knowledge economy. But the concept of knowledge economy and practice of knowledge economy over there and India are quite actually separated from each other. But I completely agree with Mr. Guha that we have to understand the thing from a point of reality. What we could say, our students, they are getting this particular training from here and they're doing so well in the United States, and they are getting the major thing, major force. If you go to any university in the United States, you could see the majority of the students are from Asia and large number from India. So that means our education itself helped them to establish themselves over there. So this is a transition, but mindset, what I am talking about is actually how we should look after that, this question of what we want actually, that is actually very important, and I'm sure that this is going to help us quite a bit.
If I can add one point here, I was talking to a friend in America and asking that, how are the kids doing there? The kids getting 90% and above are all Indian and Chinese, okay? But the kids opening the startups there are all the Americans. So it's in our DNA. We do good there, and then we might become a Sundar Pichai or a Satya Nadella there, right? But the ignition of the innovation is not happening because of a mindset and nothing else. It has to be the mindset change that should create this domino effect.
So thank you very much. I think time's up. Let's summarize, and I can only say it maybe one word or one line is that if we are talking of outcome, you have to be out, fail, then only you can come again. Am I right? So I think probably that's the way we can summarize. In Bengali, there's a beautiful phrase called Amra Nuton Jouboniri Dut, Amra Chanchal, Amra Adbhut. I think India is poised for this young generation that gives us the demographic dividend. Who are thinking differently and in a very positive direction of creating a new India. So with that positive thought, I think let's end this session, and thank you very much, the August gathering, for coming here all the way from various parts of the world to illuminate this August audience. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Aparup Sengupta, for chairing this and moderating this very interesting session. May I request Mr. Suman Banerjee, CHRO, ABP Private Limited, to kindly come on stage and present mementos to our chairperson and moderator and our panelists. Thank you very much, Mr. Aparup Sengupta, once again. Thank you, Mr. Abhijit Guha. Professor Dr. Dhrubajyoti Chattopadhyay, thank you very much, sir. And Mr. Shomik Dasgupta, thank you very much.